You think you're in control, right? Making your own choices, reacting logically, living your life on your terms. But what if I told you there are invisible psychological truths pulling your strings like a damn puppet? And the worst part? Most people never notice. They struggle, burn out, feel stuck, and blame themselves, not knowing. The game was rigged up here, in your mind. Today I'm pulling back the curtain. Here are 5 psychological truths that secretly control your life. And once you see them, you'll never unsee them. Let's go. Chapter 1. The Effort Paradox. We're taught, work harder, better results. And that's true for a lot of things. Solving math problems, getting fit, building a business. But not everything works that way. For certain things, like peace, confidence, love, sleep, creativity, flow, trying harder actually pushes them away. It's called the effort paradox. The more desperately you want something, the more it escapes you. Desperate people repel opportunities. Needy people repel relationships. Stressed people repel peace. So the harder you try, the more you fail. Why does the effort paradox happen? Here's the truth. When you try too hard, your brain shifts into a state of tension. You overthink, you stress, you get anxious, and that actually blocks the natural flow of what you're trying to do. Let's break it down. Confidence. When you try to be confident, it looks like pretending. But real confidence comes from not trying, from being okay with who you are. Creativity. When you force ideas, they hide, but when you're relaxed, in the shower, on a walk, they suddenly appear. Public speaking. The more you obsess over sounding perfect, the more robotic and nervous you come across. But when you speak like you're talking to a friend, people listen. Because effort often comes with resistance, and resistance creates friction. The paradox is, you get closer to what you want when you stop needing it so badly. It's not about giving up, it's about doing your part, and then releasing the pressure. Flow happens in a relaxed state, not a desperate one. So how do you stop forcing and start flowing? Do the thing, trust the process, but don't grip the outcome. Life rewards the relaxed, not the lazy. Big difference. So if trying harder backfires, what about trying to control everything? Chapter 2. The Control Paradox. The more you try to control life, the less control you actually have. It may sound absurd, but control is like water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. You can plan everything, control every detail, predict every outcome, but life laughs and throws you a curveball anyway. That's the control paradox. Why does the control paradox happen? Because control is usually driven by fear, and fear creates tension in your body, in your energy, in your relationships. When you try to control something too tightly, here's what happens. 1. You stop trusting. Instead of trusting people, the process, or yourself, you try to force outcomes. But life doesn't respond well to pressure. It responds to flow. 2. You create resistance. The moment you push too hard, others feel it, even without words. Think of it like holding a rope. If you pull, they instinctively pull back. 3. You disconnect from reality. When you try to control everything, you're living in your head, not in the moment. You miss opportunities, signals, and natural changes. Control makes you rigid, but life is fluid. 4. You block growth. Control might protect you in the short term, but in the long run, it suffocates creativity, freedom, and connection. So, paradoxically, when you let go, not give up, but release the tight grip, you make room for trust, for freedom, for alignment. That's when life starts working with you, not against you. If you want a mindset that actually gives you power, start by saying this to yourself. I can't control life, I can't control people, I can't control outcomes, but there are things I do control, and they change everything. My actions and my reactions. That's where my real power lives. What if the biggest illusion isn't that we control life, but that we control our thoughts? Chapter 3. Your biased brain. What if I told you most of your decisions aren't really yours? They feel natural, logical, even right, but they're just shortcuts your brain took without asking you. Let's picture this. Your brain is like a fast robot in a giant library. Its job? Help you decide quickly. Should I talk to that person? What do I say next? Is this safe? Am I good enough to try this? But here's the trick. This robot doesn't read all the books. It grabs the same ones it already knows and likes. If you once saw a dog bite someone, the robot says, "Dogs are dangerous," even if most are friendly. Or if your idea was laughed at once, it says, "Better stay quiet." Even if your voice deserves to be heard. It means well, but it's not always right. That's a biased brain. It makes fast choices based on old fears, beliefs, and habits. Not truth. Your brain isn't a truth machine. It's a pattern machine. It tries to keep you safe, help you survive, and save energy. But here's the catch. It also hides possibilities, because it's using old information, not necessarily the right information. Let's say you think, "I'm not creative. People like me don't start businesses. I always mess things up." You don't even question it, because your brain keeps repeating it. That's your bias, and it's quietly blocking you from trying. You don't take that risk. You don't apply for that job. You don't talk to that person, not because you can't, but because your brain decided it's not worth it before you even tried. Being aware equals unlocking freedom. Once you see your brain doing this, you can say, "Wait, is this actually true? Or is this just my brain being biased again?" You start questioning your thoughts. You stop running old patterns and begin designing new ones. And that's when your life starts to change. But not all patterns come from thoughts. Some were planted even deeper, in your emotions, long before you could think clearly. Chapter 4. Emotional Programming. What if most of your choices, the way you love, work, dream, react, aren't really yours? They were shaped by something that happened when you were 5. Something you don't even remember. Sounds crazy? It's not. It could be running your whole life, right now. Psychologists call it emotional programming. Old pain written into your nervous system. It's like your brain got coded in childhood, and that code never got updated. And that old code? It didn't just disappear. It kept running in the background, silently shaping your choices, fears, habits, and even the kind of people you're drawn to. You think you're choosing freely, but often you're just replaying an old script. Still not sure what this looks like in real life? Let me show you how it works. Meet John. John is always the funny guy in social settings. What he thinks: "I just like making people laugh. That's who I am." Root cause. When John was a child, emotions like sadness or fear were dismissed. But when he was funny, people paid attention. Humor became a mask to be accepted. In reality, he's not just funny, he's hiding his vulnerability. So humor is his armor. Another example, John always needs to prove he's right. What he thinks: "I just care about truth and logic." Root cause. As a child, his voice was constantly dismissed or ignored. Now, being right gives him a feeling of power and control he didn't have before. In reality, he's not just logical, he's fighting to feel heard. The truth is, always needing to be right, especially when it's rooted in trauma, costs him real connection, inner peace, emotional growth, and the freedom to be wrong without fear. These aren't conscious choices. It's old code, still running in the background. And as long as that programming stays hidden, you're not really choosing. It's the invisible psychological truths, pulling your strings like a damn puppet. That's why, if you don't update the code, you'll push away good people, chase goals that never truly satisfy, feel stuck without knowing why, waste energy on things that don't matter. So, how do you break free? Start noticing when you're triggered. Every time you feel that emotional wave, anger, shame, defensiveness, fear, catch yourself in that moment and ask, "Wait, am I triggered right now? Why? What does this remind me of? Is something old showing up again?" Just noticing is already half the work. Seeing it clearly is the first step to changing it. And once you catch it, you can reflect, you can journal, ask ChatGPT, or talk to a therapist. Do anything that helps bring your subconscious into the light. That's how you start rewriting the code. One conscious moment at a time. Now that you've seen how deep the programming runs, let's look at one final truth that explains why emotions still win 90% of the time. Chapter 5. The 90-10 Emotional Rule. 90% of your decisions are emotional. Only 10% are logical. Even when you think you're being rational, making a smart choice, it's often your emotions secretly pulling the strings. Why? Because your emotional brain, the limbic system, works faster and more instinctively than your logical brain, the prefrontal cortex. It reacts up to 500 times faster. So when something happens, an opportunity, a problem, a person, your emotions already decided how you feel about it and what you're going to do before your logic even showed up. Texting your ex late at night? What you think afterward? I just wanted closure. What really happened? Loneliness, emotional hunger, or craving validation kicked in. And logic never had a chance. Or here's another one. You buy something you don't actually need, and you don't even know why. Maybe you blame yourself later. But here's the truth. Marketers know this. Salespeople know this. That's why they run offers like 30% off, only 1 hour left, plus a free gift if you order now. And suddenly, your emotional brain says, I need this. What if I miss it? Such a good deal. You feel the rush. And boom, you buy it. Not because it made logical sense, but because of emotion. The fear of missing out, the thrill of a reward, the promise of a dopamine hit. Then, a few days later, your logical brain finally speaks. Wait, did I actually need this? Not really. But it's too late. See? That's how psychological truths have been pulling your strings like a damn puppet. And if you really want to make your own choices, remember this. Your real power lives in the pause, between the feeling and the reaction. Here are 3 practical tools to help you do that. 1. Set emotional rules. Give yourself a personal boundary like, I never make decisions in the heat of emotion. Or, I wait 24 hours before buying anything expensive or replying to triggering messages. This gives your logical brain time to show up. 2. Breathe before you act. If someone pisses you off, literally stop and take 5 deep belly breaths before replying. Breathing resets your nervous system and helps bring the logical brain back online. 3. Name the emotion out loud. Say, I'm feeling rushed. I'm anxious right now. I feel defensive. Labeling the emotion reduces its power. It's a neuroscience-backed trick to shift from feeling to observing. Remember, you can't stop emotions, but you can catch the moment they try to control you and choose differently. That's what makes you powerful. So now you've seen them. The 5 psychological truths that secretly control your life. The invisible patterns pulling your strings like a damn puppet. And once you see them, you'll never unsee them. That's the moment everything starts to change. Because awareness breaks the spell. You're no longer just reacting, you're choosing. And the more you choose consciously, the more power you take back. Not all at once, but moment by moment. One pause, one breath, one truth at a time. You're not the puppet. You're the one cutting the strings. Now tell me in the comments, what's one truth from this video you can't unsee anymore? The one that hit you the hardest? I'll be reading every single one.